Okay, we're now going to move on to our next panel session. So if we can have Dwayne, Jobson, Kamal, and Anusha join us here. We're going to be talking about why the urgency now, and Dwayne will be hosting the session.
I'll just go ahead and introduce myself. I'm Dwayne McDaniel. I am developer advocate at GitGuardian. We're a company here trying to help people solve NHI governance at scale. That's what we do. It shouldn't be shocking to be on a panel. I do spend a lot of my time in the security community at large, speaking at other conferences. But that's me. And as soon as we get a mic in someone's hand, it looks like, Kamal, you have the mic first. No, I guess, Anusha, you have the mic first. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Anusha Iyer. I'm the CEO and founder of Corsha, and we're a identity provider focused on NHI's machines, workloads in the space, and have been myself in the space, particularly in sort of the federal and intelligence side of the US government for about 20, 25 years or so. And jumped out to start Corsha a few years ago.
All right. Looks like Jobson, you got the mic now.
Hello. Hello. Oh my God. Hi everyone. First of all, thank you for inviting me to this panel. So my name is Jobson Andrade. I am a senior manager for identity operations at Mars. So Mars is the company behind the brands, right? M&M's, Snickers, Twix, Royal Canin, Pedigree. So in my role, I lead the global identity operations team, and we are responsible for the whole identity lifecycle management, and more recently, non-human identities, right? Which is a big challenge. So thank you, Lalit, for the opportunity and the Identiverse team.
All right.
Hi, my name is Kamal. I'm a co-founder and a CTO of Andromeda Security, which deals with both human and non-human identities authorization for our lifecycle management. Before that, I was with eBay and PayPal for 15 years. Before starting this journey, I was running the Cloud Center of Excellence for PayPal, which is responsible for all of private and the public cloud for the PayPal deployments. Thank you.
I wanted to set the stage here as we get going and not give a full presentation, but urgency. When I think urgency, again, I spend a lot of my time in the security world, so I read a lot of reports. I go to a lot of conferences and talk to a lot of security people. And when I think of the urgency, I think of this and the rise of identity-based attacks. Like if you're reading reports like Verizon's DBIR and other sources out there, it's more and more the attackers aren't going through 0 days and crazy backdoors. They're simply attacking in such a way that they steal credentials. And there are so many more NHIs with credentials than there are humans with credentials, for the nature of we can spin up NHIs on the fly, but we can't really spin up a human, can you? But Lalit and his group have put together a wonderful list. If you go to nhimg.org, look for the 52 non-human identity breaches article. This is one I just grabbed kind of at random, but they popped Active Directory. The attacker popped Active Directory, was able to use that identity to get in and find other identities, other credentials throughout source code, and start exfiltrating data and start attacking over and over and over again. Affected 12 million end users, and that's, for at least for me, that is what urgency looks like. We know this is a growing problem, not a shrinking problem. I appreciate a gentleman earlier who made the distinction between an NHI and a credential. NHIs use credentials, though. That's how they securely authenticate to things, and that's what the attackers generally are after, is those credentials so they can do things. And my company does a lot of research. So last year we found that there were 23.7 million hard-coded credentials added to GitHub in public just in the year 2024. We have a full report. You can go look at State of Secret Sprawl report. We have a booth out here. We're happy to tell you all about that. Not here to really talk about what we do other than this research, but this screams we need to like do something about this right now, right? That's not just me. But I want to start by asking y'all, and really I've said my piece on this, I think if you all should realize I take this very seriously. How did we get here? How did we get to this point where like this is the #1 attack vector? This is the #1 way attackers want to get in and steal your stuff. Anusha, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the why now, I think, is twofold. Obviously, there are a lot of NHI machine-to-machine connections under attack now. I'd say the flip of it is there's also a tremendous pressure to really connect everything everywhere all at once, right? Great movie if you guys haven't seen it. And that stems from the fact that there are just so many different types of non-human identities out there, right? From, obviously ephemeral workloads, agents, hybrid services, SaaS applications that organizations now have to manage, right? How many of you, I can imagine if I asked for folks to put up their hands of anyone that organically writes everything that they've deployed, there's probably a quiet room in here, right? So there's a lot of pressure from whether it is medical devices, operational systems, critical infrastructure, that it's becoming very gray where one network ends and another begins, right? And so that pressure to connect everything, what it does is it introduces risk on obviously identity and security teams to manage that growing threat surface, right? And I think that's a large part of it, is it's both a security responsibility, but an opportunity to kind of design this the right way as we are increasingly just, interconnected.
I think you're on the front lines of this, Jobson. Like, they're a very large organization trying to figure this out. What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, you said it right. We are trying to figure this out, right? So at Mars, we have businesses, we have factories, we have offices, laboratories, hospitals. It's a very diverse environment, so it's a big challenge, right? But now, with this digital transformation, everything needs to be connected, right? Everything kind of became API-driven, and as a result of that, we have a bunch of NHIs, right? And the big problem is the lack of governance. So you need to connect these as quick as possible to help the business to grow, to achieve what they're expecting. But if you don't have this governance process, a robust process, we have the secret sprawl, right? And everything gets leaked, so.
Kamal, what thoughts on that?
Sure. So I think Lalit said NHI existed from the day an application started talking. It's not something new. But if you look at 10 years back, enterprises were all running in a private cloud on their own data center. So there was a boundary of network. Even if your NHI is found, nobody would be able to use it from outside. They have to be inside your premise to do things. But as the digital transformation happened, the adoption of cloud and SaaS happened. Now more and more companies are putting their data into a public environment like a cloud or a SaaS. The physical boundary is gone. That's one aspect. The second aspect is when you needed a credential or a user to be created in an AD or a database previously, it used to be centrally managed by one team. They create it and then they grant the access. But as DevOps become a practice and you have more people have access to cloud and SaaS, everybody can create it on their own. That means the decentralized aspect of this nature has increased it so much. Now you have more users and more credentials getting created, which is also the urgency of why now, because of the cloud adoption and SaaS adoption is being more and more done by companies, that you're going to see a more growth in the NHIs.
So while it is definitely not the entirety of the matter, there's definitely, like if you go look at the OWASP top 10 for NHI risk management, a lot of it's around secrets. And that seems to be all the attacks, this identity-based attacks, is let's get the secrets for these NHIs. So why is this so hard? Why is it a situation where developers keep, not just developers, DevOps people, other people end up putting these secrets for the NHIs in plain text places? So Kamal, let's start with you.
Sure. So one of the trends which happened is like when you write code, previously you need to read a secret. You normally keep the secret in your environment variable. This is how it started and people do it. But the evolution of IAC, infrastructure as code, or more and more adoption of source code control to store things, what happened is people have to put this credential somewhere to run it. And by mistake, by our nature of doing things, people start storing these credentials in the source control, which is like Git or GitHub. And then that becomes an exposure of credentials leaked out and people use it for different purposes. And that's why, as the initial stats showed, that there are millions of credentials available in public forums and things. And now another forum of is that people share this through social chat or Slack and things like that. So the sharing of any credentials through any mechanism is a challenge. So moving to more of a serverless, a secretless thing, like keyless things are better in a way, so that you don't have a credential. But it's not possible in every scenario. So there are 50-60% where you can go keyless. But again, in other cases where there are keys involved, it's better to use something like a vault, so that the credentials are not exposed directly to somebody. Somebody has to check out the credential and use it. So using a secret manager kind of a thing is a better thing to do.
Just reverse order, Jobson.
Yeah, so I think for the business, right, speed is being prioritized over security. So today, all of the developers, they need to deliver as quick as possible. And we still have, I used to see this in my team every day, right? Developers asking permissions, access to sensitive data, but they're still using hard-coded secrets, right? How we are going to manage that? So, and I think in our case, right, and in your company, what you should do is you should take a risk-based approach, right? Make sure that your processes are risk-based. For example, if there is a secret, an integration that we use secrets, make sure that you have a proper risk assigned to that application team or the director of the area, right? And make sure that your risk teams, they are managing that risk over time to ensure that you have an action plan to mitigate that, to migrate from secrets to different methods like certificates or federated identity credentials or something else other than secrets, right? And finally, I think we should share the vision with the business to move away from secrets, right? There are some options today that you can just move and get rid of secrets. For other options, it's still difficult. But I think we should start sharing the vision, changing our policies internally to make sure that we are not using secrets. Of course, that's going to happen, but we should share this as soon as possible.
I'm going to blame it on being early in the morning that didn't get a raucous round of applause. We should be moving away from these secrets. But Anusha, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree with both Kamal and Jobson. I think the, I like to kind of think of it as the democratization of infrastructure, right? Even maybe 10, 15 years ago, we had to stand up a deployment environment. We had to go to an IT or an infrastructure person to do that. And today, we all do it ourselves, right? And so because of that, you need more governance. You need sort of the program around it. But in terms of secrets, yeah, I think, it was mentioned even in the previous panel, and maybe this is a little bit of a spicy topic, but I would also say that identities do not equal secrets, right? Identity is a lot more than that. And I think that's where there's this disconnect between sort of the way non-human identity is managed currently today and where we need to be. So it's, I feel like there are a lot of lessons we can actually learn from looking at parallels in the human identity and access management space and some of the evolution we've seen over time, right? So take, for example, concepts like MFA or adaptive authentication, right? If you look at stats right now, with the adoption of MFA on the human side, I think the value of usernames and passwords, literally the cost that they are sold for on the dark web dropped by about 50%. Right, and so the way to alleviate kind of the impact of all of these secrets leakages is make them worth less, right? And how do we do that? We either entirely get rid of them, or we at least buttress it with concepts like MFA, adaptive authentication on the non-human side, which is very doable, right? How do we find and build and kind of advance adoption of an identity provider that makes NHIs first-class citizens?
So we have about 5 minutes left, and I have so many more questions I want to dig into with you all, but limited time. But it's 2025. I got to bring up AI. It's the elephant in the room in almost every conversation. Is that part of the urgency now? Should that give us a greater sense that we need to deal with this right this second? Kamal, you're looking.
Sure. No, I think definitely I think Shashwat was talking about a company taking 5 years to do a migration to cloud. So if you go back, most of the companies still are in the journey of adopting cloud, and it's a multi-year journey. But if you look at the adoption of AI, it's lightning fast. It's like within weeks and months, people are into AI and then starting doing things with this. So, and especially with the agentic AI coming up, the way we look at it is in agentic, NHIs are mostly have entitlements which you can monitor and understand the behavior. It's constant. If you know an application, it does this for 10 times in a day, you know it will do. But the problem with agentic AI is it is going to be an NHI, but which is going to do what human does, which makes the behavioral model very different because it's going to act in behalf of a human and do things. So that's why the evolution of this agentic AI and more autonomous systems coming in, now we need to treat these NHIs with a little more of how we define this behavior. How can we adapt to this and build tools which can understand that how do we track and monitor this in a better way, which is very critical. And I think, as Anusha was saying, the thing is, how do you make it worthless is one of the things is, one of the topics which missed in NHIs is everybody talks about key, but everybody misses the entitlements. If you make the entitlement very least what it can do, avoid any escalation, then it's a better way to deal with it than giving it everything and then making it available to somebody so that they can escalate and do operations with that.
Anusha?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. The agentic AI, I think, is really sort of forcing the hand with respect to NHIs, right? And what's, again, it's twofold. One, it's the opportunity of, on the positive side, all of these, this capability that we're able to bring to bear with agentic AI, with, you know, just AI based in computation itself. On the flip side of it, it is the adversarial AI that is now hitting our systems, critical infrastructure, and, you know, critical business systems that has to be addressed, right? And so, because of that, I think that's definitely an urgency driver in terms of speed of adoption we're seeing today that we haven't really seen with technologies to date in the past.
So they pretty much said everything, right? But what I can tell is it's accelerating a lot, right? It's just starting. We are just at the beginning, in my point of view. From a operation perspective, like, you have today a chain of agents, right? If you have an agent to optimize a supply chain process, you don't know if that agent will create different agents with service accounts, APIs, permissions in different resources, right? And if there is a breach, how are you going to manage that from an operational perspective? The breach happened to one specific agent with the child agent or something else. So it's very difficult to manage that. I have no idea how to solve that problem. Looking forward to talk to you guys, vendors, colleagues, right, to understand how to manage that going forward. And again, we need to have some governance, right, to start working on that, the new frameworks that are coming up. Yeah, it's a good challenge and very interesting.
So with that, we have 1 minute left. So is anything you want to plug? Any final words you want to say? Let's go this way.
Yeah, so final word is, I think we should help the business, right, without being a bottleneck for the business, without just trying to achieve the growth with responsibility, right, and try to put some governance on that.
Yeah, I will say we are in the NHI Expo later today. Would love to have you all stop by and say hi. And just as a parting thought, right, if you think about it, our org charts today still start with people, right? But if you think about the real decision makers in your ecosystems, they're largely API-based systems, right? They are agents, automations, scripts. And so the question today is your identity security posture ready for that? Can it handle that?
Yeah, I think in our view, any identity is equal. It's human or non-human. You have to take care of it to make it the right sized from an entitlement perspective and protect it the core so that your business is at least risk even if it gets compromised. So putting an effort to manage identities is very important for any organization.
You can come talk to me at our booth, the GitGuardian booth, and I'm happy to tell you my opinions on a lot of things. But I thank you very much for your time being up here. And I agree with everything you've said. We need to approach the future, and we need to make it partner with business. So it's not, this is another layer of security, another layer of governance. This is an enablement. This is how we get there faster and better and safer in the future. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.